Hi, my name is Jane Powell. Welcome to Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. This is a show showcasing community involvement, and I have two guests today. Valicia Leary, Executive Director of Children's Therapy Clinic, and Jill McLaury from Bright Futures Learning Service. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. And I have lots of questions, and I'm sure everyone else does, about your organizations and the great things that you're doing in the community and how you're partnering together. But Valicia, why don't you get us started and tell us about Children's Therapy Clinic?
Okay. Children's Therapy Clinic provides therapy services to children with special needs here in the Kanawha Valley who are either from low-income families or their insurance is insufficient, meaning the insurance is not going to cover the therapy services they need. They'll deny it. We provide physical, speech, and occupational therapy. We also have music therapy and an autism socialization program.
Wow, that's a lot. You're very busy.
We are. We are.
Yes, you are. And within those services, how many children do you serve?
We served approximately 68 children last year. Some of those kids receive more than one type of therapy. They may need speech and occupational. They may also need autism socialization. So it really depends on their diagnosis and their needs. So they may receive one or more therapies at the clinic.
Okay. Jill, tell us about your organization.
Okay. Bright Futures is also a therapy clinic for children, primarily children who are on the autism spectrum, although we do serve children with other diagnoses as well. But we provide applied behavior analysis therapy, which is a relatively new treatment available. That it's been 5 years ago, we actually had to pass legislation to require some insurances to cover first just autism spectrum disorders, that prior to that, if you had a child diagnosed with autism, insurance wouldn't cover treatment at all. And so 5 years ago, we were able to pass legislation that required PEIA and CHIP and private insurances to cover autism, and then we specifically had to spell out coverage for applied behavior analysis therapy, which has been the therapy that is the gold star standard that has shown to be most effective to serve kids on the spectrum, that with early intensive ABA therapy, as much as almost 50% of kids can make enough gains that they're able to go into traditional school settings without supports. So it's been available here in West Virginia really for only a few years. There's only a handful of clinics in the state that are doing it. And so we all unfortunately have wait lists because there's a huge supply, huge demand and very low supply.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons we were happy to partner with Children's Therapy Clinic.
Okay, so you mentioned the partnership, and so maybe that's a great place to go next. Tell us about the partnership and what you guys are doing together.
All right. Well, we were fortunate to receive a grant through Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation for this collaboration. While most of our clients, we do serve all different diagnoses, most of them do have autism or are on the autism spectrum. And what we have found that sometimes the children have some behaviors or things that may interfere with the therapy services. You know, they're coming for speech therapy, but we need to address some other things at the same time before we can start to work on their communication. We do not have a behavioral analyst or analyst on staff, so we tried to enlist the help with Bright Futures so we could serve the whole child at our clinic in order to provide what they could. Unfortunately, as I said, a lot of our children are either from low-income families or have insufficient insurance. There is some insurance that ABA still is not covered with, so they're not maybe receiving ABA therapy services like what Jill offers. So we're going to try to offer them everything at one place. And Jill has been great, her staff, and they've come in and done training for our staff to help them learn some more behavioral techniques to use with the children, and they've coached it, and Jill could probably tell you actually some more about what they've done exactly with the therapist and the children at the clinic.
So I'm just thinking, as a parent or a caregiver, if I can go to one place and get multiple services, that's a great relief to me. So congratulations.
Thank you. And again, you know, too, with limited resources, it's hard to be driving all around town or actually even driving out of Charleston, out of the state for some of these services. So like you said, we're trying to make it convenient for the families, trying to give them the tools to work with the children.
That's great. What age are the kids? What ages do you cover?
We typically see children after they age out of birth to 3. So most of our clients, I would say, are from age 3 to teenagers. We will see them through school, but typically once they're out of school age, they move on to adult services.
Okay.
But I would say the majority of our clients range in age from, I'd say, 3 to 10, 3 to 12. And you know, the younger we can start working with them, the more difference we can make. We need to start teaching them sooner, you know, the skills they need, try to get them into a routine to make sure they're more successful with therapy, because you can get bad, you know, in a bad
We all have
kind
bad
of
habits.
bad habit,
We
or
all have
you know,
bad
it's kind of a
habits.
hard word to say, I guess, wrong word, but you know, you want to make sure they're getting the best start and starting the appropriate, you know, steps to make sure they're successful.
Right. My guess is that although you're working with the child, this is really something that the whole family needs to learn, and that you're teaching and showing the whole family. Am I right about that?
Yes. Do you want to talk about
Sure,
that?
sure. That's one of the things that we've been doing with our collaboration. The way that we started was doing a one-day workshop with Valicia staff, and so again, they're occupational therapists, they're speech therapists, to give them information about what applied behavior analysis is and what it isn't, and then some of the specific techniques. And then we've come in and then coached their therapist to utilize the techniques. So one thing we should probably clarify, just so people are sure, that at this point, Children's Therapy Clinic isn't offering applied behavior analysis therapy. So if you were looking for a place to provide inclusive ABA services, they're not able to do that. They're using us as a consult service, because there are a lot of the techniques that we utilize that can help the speech therapy and the occupational therapy be more advantageous, because a lot of times the kids have significant behavior challenges that impede their ability to even learn to speak or learn the skills that the occupational therapist or the speech therapist might be trying to teach them. So we've come in and I've done first model it for the therapist to show them, okay, here's what it should look like, and then we switch roles and we coach them, and then after we have a good idea of exactly what we want to target, then we bring the parents in and model and coach with them and give them really specific things that they can work on in home that will then help their child advance.
Great. Yeah, I would imagine that it needs to be all inclusive
Yeah,
with
yeah.
everyone living under the roof and having interaction. Absolutely. And you did make a really good point that we should just clarify. It is definitely two separate organizations, two separate businesses, one a nonprofit and one a more traditional business model, that are working together to create a great care system for families and for children.
And that's what
We
Jill and I have talked about. I said, I think truly we just want to help the families here in this community. We want to help their child be successful and get the services they need.
Right. Yes. So if someone has a child that needs services, how do they contact you? And who would we contact? I guess depending on what the need is. And I believe we have your contact information. There's a website,
Yes,
children'stherapyclinic.com.
correct. And the applications are actually on the website if they do want to apply for services for
Okay.
their children there.
And then there's a testing process, and you guys kind of direct them through what needs to happen from there.
Right. As a child begins therapy at the clinic, the therapist, whichever type of therapy, will do an evaluation to see where the child is performing, what's their current level, and what their needs are, and to see if they do actually need therapy services.
Great. And to get the ABA testing or services, we would contact Bright Futures.
Yes.
Through your website.
Yes. Yes, our website is just brightfuturesaba.com, and our phone number's 304-397-6909.
And we have that on
Got
screen.
it on screen,
Yep,
great.
absolutely.
I do want to specify too that we do have a waiting list for services,
Okay.
and so that's another reason that we wanted to partner with Children's Therapy Clinic. That overall, we know that less than 10% of kids on the autism spectrum in West Virginia have access to ABA. And so this was, again, another way of getting some of that available to kids that we wouldn't be able to see otherwise.
Great.
So,
That's great. So we talked about people that need your services, but for both organizations, and we know most things, there's a lot of volunteers that help you spread the word and carry your mission forward. And you both have social media accounts, is that right?
Right. We both have Facebook pages. We are on Twitter as well. So we try to share, especially for Children's Therapy Clinic, we try to share on Facebook upcoming events. We try to share, whether they be fundraisers or events for families. There was the Lighted Up Blue Day for Autism Awareness on April 2nd at Appalachian Power Park, and it was a great day for families to come out and see what services are available and just to have a fun family day. So we try to share any other events in the community like that as well.
You mentioned earlier, off camera, that you have a great story from a parent, that she shared some wonderful things with you. Would you mind telling us that?
Sure. We love to hear the success stories and to hear, as a child graduates from therapy, to see that they've gotten what they need. And last fall, one of the parents, we discharged our son from occupational therapy, and he also received some social skills therapy at the clinic with the Autism Socialization Program. And I asked her to write a letter that I could share, what he had accomplished. And he was a young boy. As he started the clinic, he had trouble with buttoning his clothes, with tying his shoes, with a lot of fine motor skills. But he also had some trouble interacting with other children. He may play beside them, or he may do things individually, but he really didn't have friends he interacted with. By the end of the time, she shared in the letter that he was doing successful in school, writing his name. He was able to dress himself and do well with that. And she said, and he even made a friend. And that was the most important thing to her.
It makes me a little teary that he made a friend.
And the children, they just, we just want them to be children. We want them to have the tools to be in classrooms with other kids, to be on sports teams. They may do things differently. They may need assistance, but they're children. And they just want to do what children do.
Right, and that's, I'm sure, what their parents and their families want for them as well. Absolutely. So social media, websites. We talked about your office number. I know that you have, as a nonprofit, that you have several fundraisers throughout the year.
We do.
And that you're always looking for people to volunteer and people to be generous with their donations. I understand that that's very important to every nonprofit organization.
Right. We have an Oscar Gala. Of course, that's in late February, early March usually, where people come out and watch the Oscars and have a fun evening. We just had an art auction for autism this past week, and it was a great time. And we also have a run coming up. It'll be in August usually for the clinic. And we're always looking for volunteers, for participants. And we also sometimes have parties for the children at the clinic where people can come and help do activities with them and things like that.
Oh, really nice, really nice. What a great thing you all are doing, just for the community and for the families, and definitely for the children involved, helping to advance them. So my hat's off to you for the hard work that you're doing. It's something not everyone can do, that we're lucky to have you. And thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. So let me just remind everybody, it is Children's Therapy Clinic. You can check their website, or we have a phone number that you can contact them that we're showing on screen. And it is also Bright Futures Learning Center, which has a website and a phone number. Then again on screen that you can contact either of those, and they will point you in the right direction to get you help. So thank you so much for being here, Jill, Valicia. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you all for joining us. It has been Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. We'll see you next time.